The advanced scan in the Select and Elite software gives you a wide array of scanning options. This is a great biosurvey when you want to dig a little deeper and get more information as you're considering what the root cause of an issue might be, or if you just want more details and more data points to connect. So let's go ahead and start this scan to show you its capabilities and how it works. First, I'll pull up our test client here and select New Session. You can see all the available biosurveys under this Biosurvey tab, and we'll go ahead and look under this ZYTO Biosurveys All New tab. Okay, within this tab, you'll notice that there are slight variations to the advanced scan you can run. There's a version if you only want to scan stressor virtual items, and one for if you only want to scan balancer virtual items. But the most used ones are these top two that scan for both stressors and balancers. The second one from the top here is what we're going to cover in this demo, since it scans for balancers and stressors, and it also has the option to use the virtual antenna. So I'll select and start the biosurvey, and before it begins, we have some options to select from at this breakpoint. You can just unselect anything you don't want to include, or add anything else that isn't pre-selected. But for this, I'm going to go ahead and move forward with this selection. Now at this point, the person will put their hand on the cradle like this, then you select Next. And now it's scanning all those virtual items. Then we come to the next breakpoint here where you can see the responses to what was scanned. The red numbers are the out-of-range items from highest to lowest priority. So this is a good place to pay attention to any common themes that you see. Which categories have the most items out of range? And you can see that at the top. How the top items might be related, and so on. And you also have the option to deselect anything you don't want to move forward with. But we'll go ahead and move forward with what's already selected and select Next. Now we're scanning the secondary stressor category virtual items. These are environmental categories that can impact the body. And again, we have the option to select these secondary stressor categories on this next breakpoint screen, and this is something that most practitioners really love exploring. It goes through virtual items like chemicals, heavy metals, viruses, mycotoxins, bacteria, molds, fungi, so we have a lot more information here. You can see this is how the person responded from the highest priority down. Anything that's in red in this breakpoint is what's out of range, and anything that's green is within the range. Now, as with other ZYTO scans, the items that show up at the top of this list are typically going to be the ones you want to include. However, there may be a category or two that shows up further down on the list you know has been an issue for the person that you also want to include. So you have the flexibility to go down and check that to include. You can also select a category here at the top, and it will select all the items that are in that category. So if I want to look at the endocrine system related categories, for example, I can do that. One thing to consider, though, on this particular screen is that if you choose too many items, it's going to lengthen the scan out time-wise. And so for this reason, we recommend keeping this number under 1,000 sub-items. And you can see how many sub-items each category has by hovering over it. So you can add everything that's checked together and make sure it's under 1,000. And if it's way above this number, you'll probably want to remove some things. The scan runs 2 virtual items per second, so you can do the math there to see how long the scan will take. So 1,000 items would be 500 seconds, which is about 8 to 9 minutes. Okay, I selected what I want, and I'm under 1,000 sub-items. So let's click Next. And it will now dig deeper into each one of those subcategories. So now that's scanning those items. And then when those are done, we can come to another breakpoint. And at these breakpoints, you can tell the client to take their hand off of the cradle. Since this is going to be a longer scan, we want to avoid their hand on there for 15 or 20 minutes straight. So these breakpoints give them an opportunity to relax their hand. And now We can see how the galvanic skin response relates to all these items from highest to lowest priority. One thing you may want to look at here is if there's a certain category or two that's dominating the top of that list. That could mean that those categories are the ones you'll really want to focus on and ask more questions about. And anytime you're not sure about an item here, you can just hover over it and it will give you more information. And of course, if you want even more information, you can always do a Google search for an item as well. The out-of-range items are pre-selected here, so typically you'll want to just leave that as is and select Next. And now for all those items that were selected, we're going to find which product virtual items can help balance them out. So I'll click Next here. Now, on this screen, you can select as many product lines as you want to include, or you may just want to include your inventory. Again, it's good to get a wide variety, but you don't want to include too many products because the scan will take longer to complete. For this example though, I'll just choose this ABC Products 1 and click Next. This is just a generic product company that we created for testing purposes, but you would select whatever product line or lines you want to include. And you could also narrow it down further by selecting only certain categories from a product line. So, after it scans through those, now on this screen we have the option to add general balancer categories. So you could do a combination of those branded products from the previous breakpoint and general products, or maybe you don't want any branded products on there and you just want these generic ones. Now these generic balancers are nice to use if you're not attached to a specific brand. So it has virtual items like vitamins, amino acids, Chinese herbs, and even homeopathics and affirmation statements. Again, these are arranged from highest to lowest priority. Since these are balancers, the positive ones are going to be highest priority, and the negative ones are going to be lowest priority. But I'll just go ahead and select these top few and click Next. Now on this screen, we can also include any other balancers from any of the libraries that you have access to. Maybe you have some custom categories you created that you want to include. So you could select those here. Or you can search for other things and add them in. For this example, I won't select anything else though. I'll just click Next, and then it scans all those general balancers. Then we come to the next breakpoint, and you can see all the responses from the product and general balancers. The top 10 product responses are pre-selected, but you do have the option to deselect any of those or add any others that are lower down on the list or any general balancers. You can select as many items as you want here, but only the top 10 selected items will be rescanned, so keep that in mind. Also with this list, you can tell what the product company is by looking at these capitalized letters before the hyphen. That can be a big help if you're scanning multiple products. Okay, after you've made your selections here, click Next. And now, on this breakpoint, we have the option to scan for dosage. This is an optional thing if you want to find the biological coherence for dosage for the products you selected. But to do this, you first have to set a parameter over here on the left, such as 1 to 2 capsules. And then the scan will determine whether 1 or 2 capsules would be the most coherent or biologically preferred for that person. For this example, I'll skip this step though and just click Next. Okay, next we come to the last part of the scan where we have the option to use the virtual antenna. So you can select which product virtual items you want to move forward with here, and it will prepare those items. Let's just go with the top few here and click Next. And in the next step, we can also select general balancers to use with the virtual antenna. So we'll do the top few here as well and click Next. Now we come to the screen where we can select the potency virtual items we want to scan for. Typically, you'll just want to select all of these, and it will determine the most coherent ones to use with the virtual antenna. But if you only want to work with certain potencies, you could just select the ones you want to scan for here. All right, after we scan for those, we have the secondary stressors now, which we can also prepare to use with a virtual antenna if we want. If you're familiar with homeopathic theory, you know that stressors can also be used as well as balancers, so that's why they're included here as well. Let's select the top few and click Next. Then we have primary stressors. I'll select the top few and click Next. Then, similar to balancers, we can search or scan for these potencies. Let's do that. And now we're ready to use the virtual antenna. Now, at this point, you can follow the instructions on the screen for using a carrier. You'd want to place the carrier that you're using next to the virtual antenna. So at the top right of the cradle here. The carrier could be a glass of water or other carrier you want to use. Then once we've done that, we can click Next. And now it will send the information of those selected virtual items through the virtual antenna. Then we do the same thing for the stressor virtual items. We can use the same carrier or a different one. We'll use the same one here and click Next. And once this output is complete, the biosurvey will generate the reports. So we have the carrier you can have the client use. Typically it's water. You'd have them drink half of it now, and then the rest throughout the next 24 hours. That's just another way to get the body's energy moving in the direction we want it to, in addition to recommending any of these balancers that show up in this report. So as you can see, these reports have a lot of detail because we scanned a lot of different things. And you can see how many biomarkers were scanned here on this first page. You'll see how many of those biomarkers were in range and how many were out of range. And then, as we scroll down, we can also see which products brought the out-of-range biomarkers into range. You'll also get a good description of the products. And then from there, it goes into a lot more detail based on the categories that you chose. So, once we get down further in the report, we have the responses of the primary stressors that you chose in the beginning. So we have the organs, glands and systems, vertebrae, teeth and meridians, and emotions. Then you have the secondary stressors. So all of the other allergens, the chemicals, ingredients derived from GMOs and herbicides. Scrolling down further, we put all that information into a prioritized list. So it's super informative, and you can really go down to a deeper level than you could just with our basic software. It keeps it very streamlined, easy to use, and really anyone in the clinic can run this. It's just a matter of you as the practitioner and deciding what you want to do from there. Again, you'll want to look for the common themes within the report. What do the products have in common? Are there certain ingredients or applications that keep showing up? What about the services? How might they relate to the products and biomarkers? And what do the biomarkers that are most out of range have in common? Now, practitioners often like to look at the biomarker progress chart, and you can add this by selecting Edit Report button at the top right. And then just scroll down to the bottom and click Comparative Scan. You can see it has the eye icon, so that means it's visible now. Then select OK, and it will show up at the bottom. This can add several pages to the report, which is why we don't include it, but you can easily add it in that way. This biomarker progress chart shows the most stubborn biomarkers at the top, which are the ones that require the most products to bring back into range. So that can give you more insight as to which biomarkers were the most difficult to bring into range. Those will be the ones at the top right here. Or if you want to know which product brought a specific biomarker back into range, that information is here as well. This can be very helpful to see which biomarkers you may want to look into in the future. Then, the last thing here is you have a lot of additional reports that you can pull up at the top left of the screen. The vector reports are nice because they do all of the vectoring work for you rather than having to click on the Vectors tab and select an area. You can basically see which biomarkers are out of range on each energetic circuit. It's the same connections you would see by selecting the Vectors tab, but this has all the responses along with what they're connected to energetically. So, if there are a lot of items on a circuit that are out of range, it can give you additional insight and help you look at things more holistically. There are also reports where you can see the responses to all the balancers that were scanned, all the stressors that were scanned, and all the services that were scanned. We can see which virtual items we used with a virtual antenna. And then there's even a foods report that shows all the responses for the food-related virtual items that were scanned. Another good one is this emotions report, which shows all the emotion virtual items that were scanned, and then the specific balancer virtual items that helped with the out-of-range balancers. It provides a lot of detail there if you want to look into the emotions further. So these reports give you a variety of ways to look at the scanned data and dig deeper. Okay, well, that wraps this overview of the advanced scan. Hopefully that gives you a better understanding of how simple and easy it is to run, but also the flexibility you have with it and the amount of things that you can scan. A lot of practitioners combine Select or Elite scanning with our EVOX software, which is an amazing tool that addresses emotional health and wellness. So I would encourage you to learn more about the EVOX by going through those videos as well. And you can also learn more about all of our products by visiting ZYTO.com.